the Captain Sterling
All of a
Hotel
sudden
is.
it came
Yeah.
up.
And then the Captain
I
Sterling
had it plugged in
shopping
today.
centre.
You're kidding.
Further down on the same side, before you get to Claremont, is the best supermarket.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. We've been there a couple of times. My wife loves it.
I just learned
She
about
just said it blows her mind.
Yeah.
The best supermarket in West Australia.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, welcome
Hey,
back.
Jennifer. Thanks.
How was Perth?
Yeah, it's good.
You gonna go back?
7 o'clock. I declare the meeting open. The town of Walkerville would like to acknowledge the Kaurna people as the traditional custodians of the land we are meeting on today and respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We recognise the many generations of stewardship the Kaurna people have provided to this land and respect that their cultural heritage and beliefs are as important today as they were for their ancestors. Everyone is present other than Councillor Coleman, who is an apology, and we have Councillor Furlan, courtesy of Microsoft Teams. The leave of absence have been registered from Councillor Joshi and Councillor Furlan. Are there any other leave? Yes, Councillor Wilkins.
Thanks, Mayor Fricker. In light of I think item 14.2.2, which we'll visit a bit later, and the cessation of the emergency measures, I'll have to put a leave of absence in from effectively tomorrow till the end of the elected term.
Yes, most unfortunate, but we'll discuss that in that.
Yep.
What we can do for future elected members.
Yeah, obviously if I'm in town for any
We're very pleased to see you.
happy to attend if I can.
Thank you. Would someone move that Councillor Wilkins, thank you, Councillor Bishop, a seconder, Councillor Joshi. All those in favour?
Yes.
Thank you. Carried. We now move on to the confirmation of minutes. The ordinary council meeting held on the 16th of May. They have been circulated. Are there any comments? Was someone happy to move? Thank you, Councillor Ashby. Seconder? Thank you, Councillor Joshi. All those in favour?
Yes.
Thank you. Carried. Special council meeting held on the 9th of June. These minutes have also been circulated. If everyone's happy, would someone move that there be a true and accurate record? Thank you, Councillor Nenke. Seconded, Councillor Wilkins. All those in favour? Councillor
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Are there any it's carried. Are there any declarations of interest on any matters? No. I wouldn't think so. Deputations, representations and presentations? No. Mayor's diary has been circulated. Do you amend? We have one small amendment, and that's the last meeting with the CEO. Councillor Furlan was on the 15th, I think, was not present, so that has been adjusted. Are there any questions regarding the Mayor's diary? Anyone want any clarification? No. Would someone then move that the diary be received and noted? Councillor Wilkins has moved. Councillor Bishop has seconded. All those in favour?
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Furlan. There are no reports from elected members having attended training conferences or seminars. Are there any reports from elected members having attended subsidiary board meetings? Yes, Councillor.
There was a quick meeting, I can't remember the date now, a few weeks ago, and it was the CEO review for remuneration, and which was supported by the panel, and the other member was for their Audit and Governance Committee member, and I forget their name, sorry, I've had some issues with my iPad, but it was recommended for person A, it was all confidential, but person B was actually felt by the board to have a stronger background on lots of different boards, a lot of diversity, and so that was carried and flipped, I suppose. So, and that was pretty much the only two items that went up.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other reports from elected members? No. Questions from the gallery?
Your Worship, as at 5 p.m 'today, there were no questions from the gallery.
Okay, thank you. Questions without notice? Yes, Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mayor Fricker, and I just mentioned this to the acting CEO and James just beforehand. I didn't get a chance to send it through this afternoon, so my apologies, but a member of the public had contacted me, and James mentioned before that he'd had a couple of inquiries too about the I guess for the want of a better word, bollards that were removed that border Levi Oval and Vale Street. And I've noticed there's new planting and everything there, which looks great and everything like that. But the concern for the resident was about kids chasing balls onto the oval, as I mentioned before. So, essentially, my concern there is, and having witnessed it, although my young lads don't play sport actually on that oval anymore because there are all other ovals that they use. I know parents both at trainings for soccer and for cricket, you regularly hear parents yelling out, "Stop, stop, stop, stop," because kids just automatically run to go to the road. Cricket balls and soccer balls going out on the road are also a traffic hazard. I just thought I would ask what intentions, if there are any, about putting in some sort of barrier to prevent that from happening.
Through your worship, the existing railing was permapine, sort of post and rail type fencing. So, as far as stopping balls and physically stopping kids, it would be, it wouldn't be very effective at that. But if we're looking to potentially look at stopping balls and kids from running out onto the road, then potentially looking at whether we look at pricing for some soccer standard barriers, but the railing that was there, really didn't prevent balls and even kids, if they wanted to, from going across there. So the railing was basically removed to enhance the landscape. But if council's willing to look at some alternative fencing options, more than happy to investigate that and bring that back to council if need be.
Through your worship, Councillor Williams, we'll happily take that on notice, obtain some quotes and present it back.
Picket fence would look nice.
That's exactly what
Might be expensive.
for.
But again,
it stops balls and children.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
Looks good.
any cost, any expenditure of costings will obviously come down to a council decision for that particular item because it hasn't been budgeted for or in the projects list for next year.
Yeah, one thing, and James, I'd agree with you about the bollards not really stopping them from going on. However, most of the bollards, you basically have to stop and turn sideways to be able to get through them because they were very close.
And they're visual.
And it's some sort of barrier that kids actually have to stop even to get over them. And at that point in time, their ears might open up and hear parents. So, look, I've got a motion. I'll once we get to motions without notice, that I'll put up shortly, and then people can decide.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, James.
There are no questions on notice? No. Petitions, there are none. Motions without notice? Yes, Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mayor Frigate. Look, it's a fairly simple one. The council replaced the fence/bollards that were removed from the Vale Street border at Levi Oval with suitable fencing to avoid children or sporting equipment accessing Vale Street without a barrier.
Sorry, Councillor Williams, you speak too fast.
That council replaced the fence/bollards that were removed from the Vale Street border. At Levi Oval with suitable fencing to avoid children or sporting equipment accessing Vale Street without a barrier. And that's probably not particularly good use of words or language there, but I think administration knows what I mean. And I'm also quite happy because I understand with the budget, I'm probably not could be going to say, Scott, is that council investigate replacing.
Explore replacing.
Explore or investigate replacing. And just for the record, I agree with the Mayor in relation to pickets, but I also know that that has a cost. Well, anything
it's only
has a
that
cost.
strip. If you only have to go that strip, wouldn't you? You don't have to go. You'd only have to go a little bit around to the. You don't have to go that strip.
It goes.
You
It
don't.
goes to the playground.
All
You'd
the
have to
way
go
to
to the
that car
playground.
park,
But that would be. It would make it.
Well, any balls that go out down towards
They do.
the
I
caravan
mean, I have
park.
driven along, and as the ball has gone straight through.
Yeah, but it is only, you're right, it is only that stretch, because any balls that go out down toward the tennis courts are going to be stopped by the tennis court netting, and anything going up toward the deli or kiosk up there is
Then-
going into a 10 kilometre an hour zone. So
if this is the motion from Councillor Williams. Would someone second the motion? Thank you, Councillor Wilkins. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? Any further?
Just, I recognise the danger, and I think that we should, as a council, recognise that there is some danger there. Probably it's not. We're not going to get a fence there in the next fortnight or 6 months, probably at least. Should we be looking at just running a rope around the boundary with a few stakes as a warning for kids to pull up, because I think there is a degree of liability there if we don't take some sort of measure, or at least make the lessees aware of the fact that
I agree.
there is a danger.
Your Worship, Councillor Ashby, I think the best option would be for us to explore all options, including that as well. And if that's an immediate fix in the short term, we can probably look to implement that. But I think it will all obviously come down to costing and meterage and seeing exactly what needs to be done there in both the short and long term.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Do you wish to speak to close, and I'll put it to the vote? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Furlan?
Yes.
Thank you. Carried. There are no motions with notice. We now move to a suggestion that we move the confidential item 19.1 entitled the CEO Performance Review Committee Minutes discussion be brought forward as the next item of business, which can then allow Richard Altman then to go home. So we're not keeping him out all hours. If someone would be happy to move that motion, thank you, Councillor Wilkins. Seconded, Councillor Joshi. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried. Thank you. Will someone now move that we move into confidence, given that it is to do with the CEO Performance Review Committee? Thank you, Councillor Bishop. Now seconded, Councillor Wilkins. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried. Thank you.
Mayor, please maybe Steve Ferns on mute might stop the developments.
Can you put it on mute?
Did you hear that, Stephen?
we're back on live. Thank you very much. Well, we've just moved out of confidence, and we now move on to the next agenda item, which is reports requiring a decision of council. We move on to 14.2.1, the draft caretaker policy. This has been circulated around the agenda. Are there any questions regarding this?
Your worship.
Sorry.
Yes, it's obvious that we've got to say yes to this because it's just going back to where we were. And we've discussed this lightly, and I know you and Scott have discussed it earlier today, you being the mayor.
No, this is the election one. This is going in election mode. This isn't us going back to...
Yeah.
That's the next item.
That's the next item. That's the Code of Practice Amendments.
I've got them mixed up.
14.2.2, yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's right. This is to do with when the election nominations open, which is in September.
And therefore this is just, we pass it.
We have to, we're not allowed to change it.
I'm jumping, I want to get out of here, obviously. Sorry.
That's all
Tick
right.
that one.
Does anyone have any questions regarding the caretaker policy? No?
So it kicks off on the 6th of September. No, that's correct.
Yes.
Correct.
And that means we can't bring anything into the chamber which is a new item, but if we've discussed it before, we're able to continue on with it. For everyone's information, Councillor Fernand had to withdraw from the meeting due to ill health. So
There's no questions. I'm happy to move it.
Sorry, I have a question.
yes,
I'm just thinking about obviously the Oval redevelopment. Now, if I gave acting CEO a call the other day, given that we still need to do a prudential review, etc., and there's a few other milestones we still need to achieve. Now I know the motion is that we're obviously proceeding with the development, but do we still?
we're okay. We can keep going on.
So the prudential review is not like a separate item. It's
no, anything to do with the ovals to do with the oval.
No, Your Worship, you are right. Anything to do with the oval is still a concurrent decision that we can continue with. I believe there is a provision in the new legislation that if the matter itself becomes an issue and the CEO and the Mayor determine it as an election issue, I believe there can be some restrictions placed on any decision making beyond that point, but because it is a ongoing matter, it can be discussed.
Okay.
All right. So, does anyone have any further questions? If not, would someone move the motion? Thank you, Councillor Wilkins. Seconded, Councillor Joshi. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried. We now move on to 14.2.2.
Can I ask my turn?
Code of Practice Amendments, which is the end of the public health emergency declaration. Yes, you may, Councillor
Okay,
Bishop.
apologies about that.
No, you were just getting yourself organised.
I was indeed. We will of course vote as is required of us. However, I think there is a backward step not letting people use modern technology to communicate. And I would never have been able to go on to council when I was working previously because I travelled so much. And we've got a classic example in one of our own councillors. If we were allowed to communicate with modern technology. So
I discussed this with Scott today, the acting CEO, because I think it's such a backward step. It's not inclusive.
Correct.
And it means people that are travelling for work, they're not able to stand as an elected member, particularly as it's very important to be part of the decision-making process. So I suggested to our acting CEO that we raise this at ERA mayors, and that ERA mayors and CEO meeting, that they then put a motion, if we put a motion to them, they can endorse it, and that can go to GAROC, which is the Metropolitan Mayors group, and if they deem, and I'm sure we get support, that then goes to the LGA AGN, and then they have to take it up with the government. I know it's a long-winded way of going there, but it's the best way of endorsement. And I just think, and because it's something that would have to change in legislation, I would say. Yes, Councillor Matthew.
I may be wrong, but does this, I don't know who is, City of Unley or someone under their own meeting procedures allow for, whatever you want to call this thing,
Electronic
connections, whatever the terminology might be. And I was wondering, that was kind of my question, can we adjust our own meeting procedures as this council, obviously to take direction from the legislation, but we can still put in some provisions around ourselves allowing, external.
Can I ask our governance officer to do some research on that?
Absolutely.
And if we can get something pretty soon,
Yeah.
that'd be great. Yeah.
Your Worship, Councillor Nanki, on that, I am aware that there are a number of councils that live stream, but and have done so prior to COVID.
Yeah.
But as far as the actual interaction of electronic meetings, I'm uncertain of any within the metro area, but we can definitely look into it a bit further.
As Councillor Bishop said, it does seem like a big step back. I mean, logically, it doesn't really matter, with today's technology, where you are is, the agenda is there, and as long as you've read it and you're, you should be able to have a voice, I feel, still.
If we make the precursor, if you're travelling, for example, or you're sick and or you're living with somebody who has COVID and you can't come out or don't wish to, in case you do spread it, that you can, but it would have to have some criteria.
Yeah, no, I accept that, yeah.
Given the fact that our iPads have internet wherever we go, and you would think the provision is already inbuilt for us to use it.
Right, we'll ask our governance officer to look into it and get back to us at the...
So it seems quite a logical or illogical process to take it out, in actual fact. We had a
I was disappointed.
The other night, and the chairman was in New York or somewhere, and we were able to do that. But yes, it's
because it's got to affect subsidiaries too.
Sorry,
but it should affect subsidiaries too.
Could we actually amend to have a point 3, which get into a motion to review
to see if it's possible.
The meeting procedures,
to review the standards of other metropolitan councils,
or to see through the LGA whether we can actually adjust our own meeting procedures to allow for electronic communication, whatever.
If we can't do that, therefore, and I don't think we will be able to, from what I'm hearing, then we really need point 4 in that this council pursues the era mayor's meeting, Garrick,
to continue
and to change the legislation.
Electronic or virtual? I would say virtual participation.
Pardon?
Would you say virtual participation or electronic?
Electronic, because it may allow for dialing in as well.
Through the chair, I have regular meetings with the governance officers from the era councils, and we had one last week in regards to this, and the City of Unley is involved in that, and we were all talking about how it is that backward step. So as far as I'm aware, there's no provision in the legislation that will allow it, but it's definitely worth the investigation.
I think we could still ask the LGA.
Absolutely, yes, yeah.
So if we have a point 4, should we not be able to have electronic participation? That the matter is pursued through era mayors and CEO meeting, and CEOs to Garrett and then to the LGA.
And government.
And government to alter the legislation to allow electronic participation. It just seems really weird. Okay, is everyone happy with that?
So, Mefford, I
Yes,
just had
Councillor Williams.
a couple of questions, and one of those, and I'm sorry if this is within the report, because I didn't get the whole way through the report, unfortunately. But Councillor Wilkins brought up before about having leave of absence and everything. I believe that he can still, the committees that you're on, the committees can still do or have their committee meetings via electronic means?
Through your worship, not that I'm aware of. I was of the impression that all notices that were released under the legislation for the emergency declaration would allow electronic participation for both council meetings and committee meetings, and with withdrawal of this notice, it's basically everything is off the table now.
I actually got a bit of info through LGA like a week or so ago, and so I didn't get through this, and I was actually looking for it, but there's some of the info I got said committee meetings may be conducted electronically, provided there are relevant provisions included within your code of practice, procedures at meetings. The relevant information in relation to committee meetings is section 90, 7A of the Local Government Act. So section 90, 7A of the Local Government Act 1999 provides...
Section 90 is confidentiality, meetings to be conducted in certain areas away from the public. So I would, without seeing the information that you have there, Councillor Williams, I would suggest that confidential meetings may be exempt, but if you can forward me that information,
yeah, I'm happy to forward
we can review it and provide an update via information in the next meeting, I think.
I think I read it as the informal gatherings. I could potentially attend by electronic means, but I don't think there's anything else.
No, it actually says committee meetings.
Informal gatherings would fall into the confidentiality clause of
that's
section
what I
90. Yeah.
But audit,
Yeah,
SPDPC,
they're all open meetings.
Yeah.
yeah, that's not what it says here. It says committee meetings. So, but I can forward the information on to you. Most definitely.
Can we leave it for administration just to ask that specific question?
Yeah, and the other thing that I
And
was going to
also
ask too, and once again I must apologise for not having been through the whole thing. I think Councillor Minky may have brought this up last council meeting or a council meeting at some stage about galleries. And when does this, going back to the original code of practice, does that then mean that that public galleries can...
Through your worship, that is correct. So as of the date, which I believe is as of 11:59 tomorrow, that's right, from all public meetings, the gallery can re-enter.
Yeah, I figured it probably did, but I didn't read that part. But one of the other parts here was also section 89, proceeding of council committees. But I'll forward it on to you.
Yeah,
then.
thank you.
Okay, is there any further discussions, or are you happy to put it to the vote then?
I'm happy to put it to the vote.
Thank you, Councillor Bishop. Now we have a seconder, Councillor Wilkins. I'll put it to the vote then. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried. Moving on. If I can turn my bit of paper. Community Fund Applications Report. We've received two people who are applying to the Community Fund. Minima Garmage, is it? And Liam Murphy. Someone, yes, Councillor Bishop.
I suggest we give them $200 each. Is that what we agreed on the last time we were doing this? Didn't we up the amount of money and we went 200?
Through your worship, yes, that is correct, Councillor Bishop. I believe one of the participants or applicants received $250, and the other received $200 because it was local. That's correct.
Well, then should these both be $250?
Yeah, because they're both interstate.
Yeah.
One's at Gold Coast and one's in Victoria.
Yeah, I'm happy to move $250
Thank
each.
you. And the seconder, Councillor Joshi, were you seconding? Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried. Moving on, we also have an application from Bridget Summerfield to do with plants at the end of Burlington Street. which is, she's asked if we can assist in the linear park revegetation. She's already done it once, hasn't she?
I believe, Your Worship, I believe so. If it's not her, it was a group that she may have been
she said
associated
she's
with.
received. Another resident did to do with the revegetation, and so she's obviously the person that's inquiring now.
I think Mr. Rolls did in that area.
He's at the bottom of Lansdowne.
Yes, he's at Lansdowne. She wants to do it at the bottom of Burlington.
She can do as good a job as he has. We should let her go for a laugh. But sometimes I'm not always in favour of them. Some of them are not all that brilliant in my opinion. But the John Rolls efforts, I've seen him up there working a couple of times, and it's a very good investment.
It's a good initiative, I think.
Okay.
What does our outdoor team think? I take absolutely.
Well, she said she's spoken
through the chair.
Yes, Fiona.
Hello, how are you?
I think
I'm
I
Me too.
I have spoken to the team leader, the beautification team leader, and he is in agreement with what Bridget Summerfield is suggesting in planting, and he will choose those plants that they're appropriate.
Good. Oh, good. Yes, I thought I'd read something that she'd met with Greg.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, would someone suggest the amount that we give her? The same as we gave to the previous request for plants, which was 210. Do we want to up it because of inflation?
250.
Let's
do
250.
250.
Through the chair, I would suggest 250 probably to cover things.
Yes.
Yeah, 250 would be good plans.
So, Councillor Joshi, are you moving 250?
Happy with that.
And seconder? Councillor Bishop? If everyone's happy, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried. Thank you very much, Fiona, for dialing in. We now move on to the parking permit fee comparison report. Does anyone have any questions regarding it? No one has any questions?
I was the one that originally asked the question, and I didn't think we were probably going to lose a lot out of the budget by doing it, but I think as administration have come up with a pretty reasonable recommendation, I'd hope that we go with that.
May I ask a question? And that is, of you, Josh, administration is recommending that the temporary parking voucher fees remain in place. Now, is that to do with construction workers, etc., etc.?
Yes.
It's not to do with the offer of a book?
No.
So that's been scrapped entirely?
At this stage it had been on the basis of the feedback from previous consultation.
Wasn't that the cost that put people off?
It was the it was the cost.
You haven't thought about putting forward, we were talking about, just a $10 thing for 20 of them, or
through the chair.
Just print them in-house, nothing flat?
Yeah, sure. Through the chair, no, we haven't, and I guess I felt that the voucher booklet for construction and for those types of things addressed the concerns that were raised,
Okay.
but it is something that we could look at again if council wanted us to.
As part of
part
a
of the
great
strategy?
We can look at that as part of the strategy next year.
Okay. Any other questions regarding the suggested fees and the comparison?
I think it's fair, and I don't think it's an onerous fee to be charging for people to have a parking permit for the entire year.
Yep.
But it isn't applied to one car. It's applied to the address. So if someone leaves their car out, they get the permit and put it in the car. It doesn't have to be to do with that registration number.
Through the chair, that's right. So we've gone away from the fixed permit. That was one of the probably the second biggest criticism was about the challenges of having a fixed permit with more cars than permits permitted. So this will give greater flexibility whilst maintaining the same criteria for properties.
Okay.
Have we move it?
Thank you, Councillor Wilkins. May I have a seconder? Councillor Ashby. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried. Thank you, Josh. 14.3.4, the fees and charges register. Does anyone have any questions regarding? Yes, Councillor Bishop.
We are about to do a lot of work, well, not this council, but the next council is about to do a lot of work on the Wesleyan Cemetery. And there's a little bit in there that says photos or motives. I don't like photos or motives, and I'm wondering whether that should be removed and temporarily until the next council have really done some work on what we do on the cemetery.
Councillor Bishop, what page of the agenda are you on there?
I am on page 180. And it's got down there.
Photo extras.
Yes.
Through your worship, Councillor Bishop, if
photo or motive, it's got here at $320.
If council wish to add to the motion to withdraw or remove that from the agenda, I'm more than happy to do so. As you rightfully said, Councillor Bishop,
photo extras, yeah.
have both the committee and council in the past, through the review of the policy, have steered away from that type of scenario occurring in the cemetery itself, and there will be some papers coming into the chamber in, I believe it's July, with regards to what's proposed for the cemetery. But more than happy for that to be removed from the fees and charges if council wish to do so.
Thank you. We've just amended that. Not we, Danielle has just amended the motion. Are there any other comments regarding the motion? If not, would someone move the motion? Thank you, Councillor Bishop. May I have a seconder? Councillor Ashby. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried. Thanks, Vicky. We have no subsidiaries. We're now looking for identification of items for individual consideration. I'll call them out. If you would just wave your arm. Hopefully I actually see it this time. 16.3.1, the monthly works report. Councillor Bishop. 16.3.2, thank you, Councillor Wilkins. 16.3.3, decisions of special council assessment panel. 16.3.4, update regarding the one. Thank you, Councillor Ashby. 16.3.5, the audit committee minutes. 16.3.6, the Women of Walkerville committee minutes. 16.4, subsidiaries, which is 16.4.1, East Waste board minutes, various. 16.4.2, ERA water minute, board minutes. 16.4.3, Eastern Health Authority board minutes. 16.5, outstanding council resolutions and actions. And that's it. So would someone please move that the others that haven't been called out? Thank you, Councillor Wilkins. Second to Councillor Ashby. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried. We now move on to 16.3.1, the monthly works report. Councillor Bishop.
I'm anticipating to be told no, but can we know what secret they're working on Crawford Reserve?
Through your worship, no.
It's live stream, so you have to ask later.
No, through your worship, it's a great initiative that's been kept under wraps for the time being. It will be released fairly.
Well, it looked as though they were working on Windows or something.
Oh yes, sorry, I'm on through your worship. Yeah, there's a little, I guess, Easter egg for that project that we're saving until works are nearing completion. So yeah, we're trying to keep it sort of a little bit hush hush at the moment, but it's nothing untoward. But we're hoping, it'll finish off the project nicely.
Well, a weekly roundup got me
Yeah,
curious.
we'll continue to plant a few seeds along the next few weeks.
It's working.
Is that all you asked for?
That's all I want.
Thank you. Would you like to move the adoption of the report?
I'm happy to move that one.
Seconder, please. Councillor Joshi, all those in favour? Thank you. Carried. Moving on to 16.3.2, the monthly financial report. Councillor Wilkins, you had a question?
Yeah, it's probably a simple answer. I was reading dot point 2 under operating income variances. We've got $261,000 predominantly due to 2 grants totaling $29,000, but they are offset by corresponding expenditure. I've read it a number of times, it just does not quite make sense to me how $261 is predominantly due to $29,000.
Your worship, that, looking at that now, it doesn't make sense. From my understanding of the variance of this grant, it is due to the LRCI grant, which should be noted in there.
That would make a bit more
Yes.
sense than...
Is that the letter I got that we weren't expecting the other day? That one? We got one recently that we weren't expecting.
Oh, additional funding?
Yeah.
Yes.
Apologies, that should be noted in there.
I'll pay for a picket fence at Levi, your worship.
Well, I've just thought of something. Remember we had that extra money that we hadn't spent? Yeah. I've already worked it out, I hope. So are you happy to move the adoption of the report? Councillor Wilkins, may I have a seconder, please? Councillor Nenke, all those in favour? Thank you, carried. I move on to 16.3.4, the update 1 Walkerville Terrace Gilberton Code Amendment, which was requested Councillor Ashby.
I'd assume that is Buckingham Arms
Yes, it is.
site that
It's now for sale.
and they have taken absolutely no notice of anything that we've put to them.
Other than the affordable housing overlay, no. The Honourable Minister decided that the code was appropriate other than including the affordable housing overlay.
So does that mean that's not in, or is it?
No, it's been included.
It's been included.
Yeah, it has been
So
included.
that's given
That
them
was
extra height.
Yeah, and that was our recommendation to include it. And if they meet those conditions, then they get the extra height allocation.
Okay. So we have had some minor
Yeah.
a lot of work for
Yes.
We haven't had Scotties yet.
No, we haven't heard from the state government about Scotties to date.
Thank you. I'll move that report to adopt.
Thank you, Councillor Ashby. May I have a seconder, please? Councillor Bishop, all those in favour? Thank you, carried. Now move on to, thank you Josh, move on to 17, correspondence. And it was for the correspondence from Alga. Are there any comments regarding that? If not, would someone move that be accepted? Received and noted. Councillor Bishop, seconder Councillor Wilkins. All those in favour? Thank you, carried. Is there any urgent other business? No? If not, I declare...
Your worship.
Oh, sorry.
Confidential.
Yes. It's all right. Turning a bit blonde here. We'll have to move into confidence because we have a confidential item that we haven't covered. So Councillor Ashby is moving and seconded is Councillor Wilkins. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried. So we now move into confidence. moved out of confidence, and I now declare that the meeting is closed at, I can't remember the time, 8:19 p.m. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.